Welcome, welcome. I'm going to give it a minute because I see the numbers ticking up from people entering from the waiting room and joining the webinar. And while we give it another minute for people to join, please feel free, if you're so inclined, to share your name and your state in the chat. I think it's always nice to see others who are interested in advocacy within your state, and it gives you someone you could connect with. And we have Puerto Rico, welcome. And yes, this will be recorded and the recording will be sent out automatically to everybody who registered for this meeting. So if you do need to hop off or if you have technology issues, no worries. You will get a recording in your inbox as soon as it is processed and ready to go. All right. All right. So welcome to the Advocacy April preparation webinar. We always want to start by thanking our advocacy sponsor, Essential Education, for their support. And while our CEO, Sharon Bonney, could not make it today, this is right around the time we're all getting ready to travel to Dallas. So, but she did have some words that she wanted to share. And so I'm going to play a short video that she recorded welcoming you to this webinar.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the CEO for the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our 5th edition of Advocacy April. You know, this was started back during the pandemic when we were unable to meet with legislators in person. So as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, or in this case, I would say innovation. We learned during the pandemic that there are so many things we could be doing just from the comfort of our offices, of our computer, that we could reach out to legislators and meet with them virtually, that we could have marquees put out in front of our schools, that we could write op-eds, that we could influence on social media, and so much more. Well, now more than ever, we need to come together and lift our voices for adult basic education. There's so much that our local programs are doing, and they need to be heard. The voiceless need to have voices. So I want to thank each of you for gathering together today to join us for Advocacy April. Thank you so much to Aaron Babornik for leading this, and Dr. Joel Floyd, and Dr. Jenny Walker, who you will hear from today. We're grateful that you're joining us for Advocacy April, and we look forward to seeing all the results on the Padlet. Take care and best wishes.
So thank you all for joining us again today for Advocacy April. We're glad you're here. My name is Erin Babornik. I'm the Initiatives Administrator for COABE, and I'm thrilled you're joining us today as we explore simple yet powerful ways to advocate for adult education. And we know that the field is experiencing a lot of uncertainty right now. Funding concerns, shifting policies, and evolving priorities can create challenges, but they also present opportunities. And that's why staying informed is so important. We encourage you to subscribe to COABE's Public Policy Pulse, which I'll put in the chat shortly, to get timely updates and stay ahead of key developments. Today, we're focusing on practical advocacy steps that you can take to ensure adult education's value is understood by decision makers. We want to empower you with concrete actions that fit into your busy schedule while making a meaningful impact. And above all, let's allow hope to fuel our efforts throughout Advocacy April, because together, small steps really can lead to big changes. I am excited to be joined today by Drs. Joel Floyd and Jenny McCormick Walker, who I will introduce in more detail when I turn the mics over to them. But just let me say, you are in for a treat because they are both incredible advocates for adult education. So we understand that many of you are balancing work, family, and other responsibilities. Right now, my kids are on spring break, so I am feeling that to my core. But advocacy doesn't have to be overwhelming. And in fact, it can be as simple as a few short clicks or a small conversation. And today we'll walk through 5 key advocacy actions, which we call our 5 to drive change. And the best part is that you'll be able to complete 2 of those actions right here during the webinar. So these are COAB's 5 to drive change that we're going to focus on today. So the first one is take action with 3 quick clicks to schedule a meeting with your legislators, even if it's virtual. 3, connect with your state association and get involved. 4, engage and spread word through media channels. And 5, take the Educate and Elevate America pledge. And let's dive into each one of those actions in more detail. So, advocacy can be as simple as sending an email, is signing a pledge, or sharing a message on social media. And COAB really makes it easy for you with these ready to send messages. You have the option to personalize them and send them off in just a few clicks. I'll drop the link into the chat so that you are able to access that. Um, Let me see, or if somebody's in I have one of my COAB friends in the chat who can post the link to the 3 quick clicks. That might be easier. I do have maybe too many tabs. Thanks, Julie. Julie Knack will be posting some links into the chat for me. Thank you so much. I like to try to keep an eye on the chat as we go through. And so it really does take less than 30 seconds if you're using a trusted device like your phone to complete the 3 quick clicks. It will actually save your information. And then going forward with each time that there is an action that we ask you to do, it saves it all in there and it becomes a 5-second process rather than a 20-second process. Now, I always encourage individuals to keep an eye on your inbox for whatever the response is back. Because oftentimes a legislator's office will send kind of a general stock email. And I really enjoy reading those because oftentimes you can see that there's a misunderstanding of adult education. And what I receive in return is maybe a K-12 education response or a higher education response. And that opens up a great opportunity to reach back out to the legislator and say, I saw that this was your response. We're actually separate from that. And this is how we actually um, help to build family literacy, thus helping K-12. And this is also how we create pathways into careers, which may include higher education. And Joel, you see yourself up on the screen right now because I love this photo of you and Representative McBath because she is a legislative champion. But secondly, please schedule a meeting with your legislators, even if it's virtual. Building relationships with elected officials is key to making a lasting impact. And here's how you can schedule a meeting. Visit your legislator's website to find their contact information. It might be a contact form. If that's challenging, you can call their office to request a meeting. Be concise. Let them know who you are and why adult education matters. I've found it to be successful if I give a really um, minimal amount of time that I want to meet, right? Maybe it's a 15-minute meeting via Zoom. And sometimes when I respond back with that shorter time frame, it signals to them that, okay, this is something that we can fit into the schedule. This person's not asking for an hour-long meeting. What should you say In the meeting, keep it simple. Introduce yourself and your connection to adult education. Share a short personal story or success story from your program. And we have a significant number of student success stories on our Educate and Elevate website. So if you don't have um, a story that any of your adult learners have said it's okay for you to share, you can pull from one of them on our website where each of those adult learners have given us permission to share their stories widely. It's really important to highlight the impact of funding and policy decisions on your program and your communities. And then you ask for their support. It doesn't need to be asking for them to sign anything specific. It just means asking for them to keep adult education and its value in mind when they are on the Hill, when they're making decisions, when they are considering policies. And offer yourself as that subject matter expert. If adult education comes up in conversation in your state legislature, they know who they can call to ask questions and to run past you what that impact might be. Even a 10-minute virtual meeting can make a difference. And if you get a meeting with a legislative staffer rather than a legislator themselves, that does not mean it is less impact. In fact, I have found it to be even more beneficial to form those relationships with the staffers within those offices because they're the ones who are condensing the information and sharing it with the legislator. So that educational staffer will make sure that what you share gets in front of that legislator, and continuing to meet with that staffer, which they often have a little bit more time for those meetings, will ensure that you continue to have adult education in front of that decision maker. Maybe all of this sounds a little daunting, and I highly encourage you, if your state has a state association, to reach out to them. State associations play a critical role in advocacy efforts. They provide valuable resources, coordinate legislative outreach, and offer networking opportunities. So if you haven't connected with your state's adult education association, now is a great time to do so. Many have advocacy committees or initiatives that are easy to join. If your state does not have a state association, you can always reach out to us and we can put you into contact with one of the state association or state advocate for adult education fellows within your state who is going through or has recently gone through the SAFE training program on advocacy. And I'm sure they would be happy to help you as well. Okay. Sharing the impact of adult education through media channels helps to amplify your message. And here are two easy ways to do it. First, social media, and secondly, op-eds and articles. And we'll provide templates and talking points to make this process easier. But I'd like to turn it over to our next speaker. So I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Joel Floyd. Dr. Joel Floyd is a passionate educator and advocate in adult education and vocational training, leading the Ignite Career Foundation since 2012 in Norcross, Georgia. He's empowered learners through ESL, GED, and various career certifications. Equally, as the Associate Director of Education at United Education Institute, UEI, in Morrow, Georgia, he drives faculty development, innovative strategies critical to adult learning and student success. Honored with COABE's 2025 inaugural Social Media Influencer Award, Dr. Floyd is celebrated for his commitment to adult learning and his relentless advocacy efforts in the field of adult education. And so I'll now turn it over to Dr. Joel Floyd.
All right. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Erin. I am excited, first and foremost, about April Advocacy Month. It's not only a transformative um, time in history, but even in social media. And I'm just really excited. So thank you once again, Coabe, for having me. And I'm sitting right here at United Education Institute, and I was just reading through one of our quarterly pamphlets that talks about student success and connections. And I like to start before I move into just giving some tips and advice on how we can become um, advocates through social media during this time for the busy and the stressed professional, because I know many of us, we are thinking, well, how can I have a voice? What can I do? And I want to start with those tips, but let me start with this particular quote, because it just it resonated with me. And this student says that he's located in one of our campuses over in the state of California, and the student stated, my time at UEI has reminded me of the importance of community and the pursuit of knowledge. This experience has not only prepared me for my career, but also reignited my belief in the power of education and the impact we can have on others' lives. And I came across this quote just now, and I'm just so taken by this quote because that's why we are here. And, as an advocate and someone who has been in the field for over 12 years, starting an adult English language school over 12 years ago, I would not have ever thought that 12 years later, 13 years later, that I would be in Washington advocating for the field as I've been privileged to do so. And I'm thankful for the opportunity. So what I'm going to do is I would like to share a few strategies that I have used to be successful on social media and promoting advocacy in adult education. And really quickly, again, before I go into these strategies, when we were listening to the initial video from our co-ape CEO, Sharon Bonnie, she said something that resonated with me as well. She stated the voiceless needs to have a voice. And that's why we're here, because we are speaking on behalf of the voiceless. We are raising awareness. And this is what advocacy is all about. It's not lobbying, but what we're doing is we're raising awareness, and we are educating the masses on the critical role that adult education plays in our society, in our world. So the first strategy, when you're thinking about advocating through social media. That first strategy is utilizing a target audience. One of the first things you want to think about is your audience. Think deeply about your intended audience. Who am I talking to? Have you ever, scrolled on social media and you saw a post and you said to yourself, well, this doesn't apply to me, and you keep scrolling. And so one of the strategies I've used is being able to network with different people in the adult education field, different stakeholders, and begin to post there. And so what you want to do is just ask that question before you post. Who is my audience? What is my audience doing in adult education? So think about your audience. Point number two, you want to think about creating engaging content that for example, stories, testimonials, educational tips. And I know for those of you who are connected with me and follow me on my LinkedIn platform, I'm always creating content there. For example, I've uh, created stories of our English language learners, what they were doing in the classroom live, giving our students opportunities to speak and just talk about how adult education has or is impacting their lives. I'm giving various educational tips, theories about adult education. And when you have identified your audience, it's kind of like an moment to the audience, because what they want to do, they're thinking in their minds, hey, I'm doing the same type of work and I want to participate. So again, so that engaging content, stories, testimonials, any type of educational tips or other effective ways that we can advocate. for adult education through social media. Point number three, I thought about also the idea of building community. And so when I think about building community, so once you've built your audience, there are stakeholders in your audience who will respond. And one of the things that you want to do is you always want to make a concerted effort to respond back, to engage. And that's another way of engaging your audience, responding, a quick statement, a historical fact. And it's fun because it'll circulate and then others start to jump into the discussion. And before you know it, you've created a small following, and other people from different fields, they'll begin to say, well, hey, I think there's a common theme. And so that's what I've been seeing recently, because I've, over the last, I would say, year, I've increased my following on LinkedIn from about 1,000 followers to just about 2,500. So I'm really excited about that. So that's a big number. So that number is significant, and it's just because of that building community and facilitating discussions that are relevant to our field in the community. And point number four, overcoming fear. And we all have, that social media anxiety sometimes. And the way I would address that is, if you're thinking, well, there's so much going on in my brain, there's so much I want to say about my work, there are so many tips that I can give just to bring more awareness and more education or more knowledge to the field. I would recommend starting small. If it's just one post a week, it's okay to start small. You don't have to do what you see others are doing, that you see that you perceive as big, but start small. It can be a simple quote, a testament from a student, just a fun fact, anything. But start small, and you'll begin to see people begin to respond. Also, I would say, in overcoming fear, learn to embrace imperfection. We're not robots, so we make mistakes. And there may be this you may be a little apprehensive, and you're thinking, oh, I want to post, but what if I say the wrong thing, or what if I? But remember, as advocates of adult education, you're in the field, you're in the expert. So just take a leap of faith and just make the post. And another strategy in overcoming fear is seeking knowledge. So those advocates, those other influencers that you see that have made an impact on social media, who are influencing, and you see people engaging them, and the likes and the community being built through various social media platforms, feel free, reach out and say, hey, what are you doing? Think about what they are doing different from what others are doing, or what you're not doing. And so moving to point five, and I think this is a big one, especially for those of you who are saying, well, I would love to advocate, I would love to speak, I would love to educate, I would love to bring more awareness, but I just don't have time. ST is what I call a scheduling tools. So thankfully, because of technology and of course media, we have scheduling tools. For example, there are scheduling tools such as Hootsuite, Buffer, Social Bee. So Facebook, also Instagram, I believe now allows it. And so what scheduling tools allows us to do is to create and to have a space for time management. I'm working over 50, 60 hours a week. So on Sunday evenings, I'm scheduling out what I'm going to say, thinking of things. And, during that time, sometimes your brain freezes and, I have something to say. So you just pull back. But that scheduling tool definitely helps you to prepare for, future posts. And with the scheduling tool, it's important because it is the bedrock. It helps you to create consistency. That's one of the things, or one of the strategies that we have to employ when we are advocating, or we're marketing or advertising, we're spreading the word on the various social media platforms, is consistency. Because day one, day two, week one, you don't always see results, but over time, if you're consistent, you will create the community and receive the audience that you're seeking. And so with the scheduling tool, we have time management, we have consistency. You can even go on those various, whichever one you decide, you can go and you can look at the analytics. It can tell you, give you certain quantitative data of the followers, the best time to post, and you can look at this data. And once again, it becomes fun. And then you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to post on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is the time that people, are surfing on LinkedIn or Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. And what that the analytics do is just give you deep insights on what you can do to post better and when and the best times to post. And so I would say, just have fun with it. And the more you do it, the more consistent you are with it. Just expect great results. And again, it's consistency is key. And finally, I would like to leave with this quote by Amy Jo Martin. She's the founder and CEO of Digital Royalty. And one of the things that Martin stated that resonated with me as well, she said, social media is the ultimate equalizer. It gives voice and a platform to anyone willing to engage. And so, again, this is a transformative moment and time. And we have social media. Um, and we can use it to our advantage to be a voice. And we know that in the world that we live, we can't be in every place at the same time. But thankfully, to social media, we can be a voice in multiple places and multiple platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. I think one of the things that you mentioned reminded for me that the scheduling aspect of it, and I've used that before, even to plan out an entire AFL week worth of posts, or to set up an entire calendar of Advocacy April posts. And then for the remainder of that time, I just got to check in and not have to have the stress of posting it. And we still have a few days, right? If anybody is going to be on their way to Dallas, maybe while you're on the plane, draft some posts that can just automatically go out. Thank you so much for sharing. And we are really, really excited. I see some questions and some responses in the chat. So just in case you want to hop over and see what everybody's saying. Thank you so much. I would now like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Jenny McCormick Walker, who serves as the Executive Director of Literacy Texas. She was a first-generation college student who personally knows the powerful role that education plays in helping change the course of a person's life. This passion has fueled a career in education that has spanned over 2 decades and impacted thousands of students. She earned a doctorate in education leadership and a master's degree in education administration, both from Texas A&M University and at Texarkana. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in journalism from the University of North Texas. She is a member of the 2025 Leadership Texas class, and she currently serves as a member of the Digital Opportunity Advisory Group for the Texas Broadband Development Office. In 2024, Dr. Walker represented Texas in COAB's 2024 State Advocates for Adult Education Fellowship. I will now turn it over to Dr. Jenny McCormick Walker.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. I'm so excited to share some really great fundamental information about media relations and how we can really take advantage of those professional relationships that we can develop with people who can get our message out in a broad way. And so I'm going to kind of go over a few things and then also give you some examples of what that looks like in practice, because I know sometimes it's hard to hear, oh, you should be connecting with media, you should write an op-ed, but if you don't know what that looks like, I think it's a little more challenging without kind of some of those physical examples. So I'm going to share a little bit of that with you. All right, so today we're going to start off just by talking about a few working definitions, and then I'll go a little more in depth about media relations, earned media, op-eds, give some pro tips, and then also provide a few examples. So first, I want to just kind of give us a good working definition of what some of these things are. So when we are thinking about media relations, this is how you build a relationship with reporters, editors, podcasters, photographers, anybody who has access to a wide market of people, a broad umbrella of folks that could help you spread your message. Earned media is media coverage that you receive at no charge because in some form or fashion you have provided content, whether that is through an op-ed, whether that is by being a guest on a podcast, anything that you do where you're providing the content that someone else is using to fill their pages, fill their time, fill their social media platform, whatever it is. And then op-eds are a specific type of earned media that really kind of works well with advocacy because we're putting our opinion out there and we're giving lots of good, solid information to go with that opinion. So when we think about media relations, it's really important to do a few things to help build those relationships with our reporters. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you build a media list. You need to know who is who in your field, in your community. It's important to know who at your local newspaper reports on education issues. Um, Sometimes we will just send messages out until we have a good contact to like a general news desk email address or something, and it doesn't get to the right person and it falls flat. But if you can find who the education reporters are, who cares about the things that you're doing, you have a better chance at getting on their radar to have things published and give you some of that earned media attention that you need. I also encourage you to not just look at the education folks. As we know, adult learning impacts a lot of different areas. So we have topics of interest in fields like economic development, workforce issues, all of the other things that impact what is happening in our communities. Chances are there's a tie somewhere to the work that we do in adult education. So when you're creating your media list, make sure you know who is who and what they care about, and make sure to make notations about what they do, because when you are sending out specific pitches for stories, you want to make sure it gets in the hands of the right person who's going to care about what you're talking about. Also, that goes along with doing your homework. When you get these folks on your list, read what they're writing, read what they're posting about, listen to their podcasts that they have going out, get a sense of the things that they care about, pick up on what they hone into whenever they're doing these interviews, and make notes on your spreadsheet that you create so that you really have a good database of the things that these folks really care about. And when you can tap into those interests, that's a very strategic way to do this kind of effort that you're doing with trying to get earned media. It's also very important to stay on top of trends. We get very focused in on adult education and adult learning because that's our area and that's what we're good at and that's what we do and that's what we care about. But it's also important to think about what else people are talking about, what else people are caring about out there, and find ways to tie in and make your work relevant to those other trends. In one of the examples that I'm going to give you, at the end here, I have an example of an email that I sent to a reporter who did a story on some great work that's happening in Texas with early childhood education. There's a really big push here. It's a great thing that's happening. And this certain reporter had written a great article about early childhood education, but I wanted to try to tap into that thinking that he had. And while he was still, it was a fresh article, I wanted to say, hey, let's look at this from a different angle, and let's talk adult literacy and how that impacts what's happening in that early childhood space. And when you can tie into those trends because you're paying attention and you're reading and you're doing all the things that maybe aren't necessarily right directly in your path, it really helps to kind of build up your ability to get your story in there and get people to listen to what you have to say. It's also really important to build trust with the reporters once you get those relationships going. You'll find that there are going to be reporters who will ignore you forever, and that's okay. And then you're going to find some who say, I will run things for you, but I want to get it first. And you can't always play favorites like that, but you can build those relationships. And it's a give and take. If you want them to run your stuff, sometimes you have to think win-win here, and you have to let them have their chance to get the scoop on things sometimes. And that's important, and that's part of that relationship building. Okay, so earned media, like I said, can look like a lot of things. You can send general news releases out, and I'll send you an example of what that might look like. I have found more often than not, people will print your news releases as you send them. So if you write a really good one, sometimes they'll just run your article, and you'll see often in newspapers where it says like submitted article or contributed article. And that's literally journalism code for we're just running that press release as we get it. So if you write really good ones, sometimes you can just get exactly what you want in the paper. And this also goes for magazines and other platforms as well. Also, don't forget about events that you're having. If you have a mayoral proclamation, which I hope is all on everybody's radars, and you do a big reception for that. If you have an open house for AEFL week, which I hope that you do, any kind of event that you're having where you can have an opportunity to get media on your campus or in your office or in your program, please make sure the media knows about that so they can come out and cover that. Also, podcast appearances. The podcasts are really hot right now. You all know this, and they're always looking for guests, but they may not be looking for you specifically. So sometimes you have to pitch yourself as a great guest for a podcast. And that goes back to making sure you do your homework to know what kind of guests that these different podcast folks like to include on their show. Social media mentions are always very important. My rule is always that if a media outlet writes a story about us, we always mention them in a separate post, and we say thank you to the Dallas Morning News for covering this and tag them. We also are very intentional about sharing their the story that they post exactly from their account. And that is because, back to that idea of, making it a win-win, the more we can share their exact posts, the more likes and shares they get on a topic that we care about. And we want them to have the numbers so that they keep coming back to us for things. So those are very small things that we can do to help push that relationship. And then also contributed articles. And we're going to talk specifically about op-eds because that's a really great way to push things out there. But you can also write contributed articles about other things too. You can profile your students and submit those. And magazines love personality profiles, and they love a good, overcomer story. They love they love the underdog. And so those are the stories of a lot of our students. And so sending out just personality profiles of some of your students will sometimes hit. And we all know that those success stories are the things that really help people understand the impact of the work that we do. And so now I want to talk specifically about op-eds. Um, oh. Well, okay, never mind. I thought there was another slide for op-eds, but there's an example of an op-ed in the examples I'm going to toss to you. So next, I'm sorry. Okay. As I mentioned, as we're building this media relations project up in your organizations, be sure to share from that media site, whatever it is they post, whether it's an article or an op-ed or a podcast, share that directly from the source. Also, don't send gifts. A lot of times they're not allowed to accept gifts. And you also don't want to you don't want to put them in an odd position, a reporter, to feel like they're obligated to cover things for you. And so gifts are really frowned upon, but it is okay to send thank you notes. And I highly encourage thank you notes for all of the media coverage that you get. They have a lot of places they could choose to cover, and if they are covering you, then we want to make sure to give them a good nod there. And be intentional in your pitches. I would say make sure that you know, again, that what these different reporters really care about, how they look at issues, what lenses and what angles that they approach some of these issues from, and take note of that and make sure that you play to that as you start pitching these story ideas to them. I'd also really encourage you not to do a mass email with everybody's contact information in there because reporters like to have the scoop on something. They like to be the first one to report something. So if you're sending the same message to 20 people and they see it like that, they may be less likely to cover whatever it is that you want to do. So doing some things that are a little more targeted, a little more specific will help make a big difference. I'd also like to point out one other thing that I forgot to mention earlier. It's also important to pay attention to photographers because sometimes staff photographers for different newspapers and magazines just need feature photos that don't really go with a story. They're just going to be on the front page with a caption. So knowing your photographers is really important as well, because I've had several photos that have run in papers that just were photographers who were having a slow day, and they knew that they were always welcome in my learning center, and they would come in and just snap a photo, and it was great. Easy earned income. And if you think about the value of the amount of space that you have for the article or whatever story about you, if you translated that into advertising dollars, it would be thousands and thousands of dollars. But if you get this earned media, that is free advertising for you. And really, it's better because it's going in depth into the work that you're doing. Okay. And so I'm adding to the chat some examples. I have a news release here. I have an op-ed example, and I also have a sample of an email that I wrote that was a pitch for that connection with the early childhood stories. And I want to also point out, just tell a little small story here at the end. I sent out a lot of this news releases, op-eds, lots of stuff during Advocacy April last year. Well, actually throughout the whole year, but we really kicked it off in Advocacy April. And I didn't hear anything, like crickets all around. But then a few months later, I got a call from the Dallas Morning News, and it was about an editorial that they were writing that was fabulous. And the only reason they knew to call me was because I had been sending them all of this information. So I want to encourage you that even if you don't feel like they're listening or that they're getting the information that you're sending, they're reading it, they're paying attention, and it will pay off ultimately. So hang in there. And then finally, I just have my contact information for you. And if you have any questions or you have any need any information or want to talk more, I'm always happy to entertain those conversations.
Thank you so much, Jenny. And I do see a great email in the chat about how do you handle media permissions and things when you might be part of a college and you're not sure where those boundaries are. And that is really the power of advocacy, is not just reaching out to those lawmakers and assuring that they know who we are, but also the people within our wider institutions and organizations as well. So that's the time to get in touch with your organization or institution's media relations person or communications department and the government relations individual, just to ensure that you know where those boundaries are, because that will depend on different institutions. But I have found in multiple institutions that I've worked for that those people are always more than happy to help, um, generally. And so it's always great to just go to the source right there. Okay. And Christy, I see that you have your hand up. And I'm not sure if you can unmute or if it's going to require you to put it into the chat. Sorry, I'm not sure how this functions right now. Oh, I think I have permission. I can, there. Christy, I've given you permission to talk.
Hi. Um, I had put into the chat a question, but it might be just my lack of understanding. There is a post about a link that goes to how to make a proclamation request, and it takes you to Canva. And I can't figure out like how to save that, or is that a template?
I will leave to Julie and Christine to address in the chat, because I am not sure. But we can test that out and make sure that we get it to you in an accessible format so that you can save it on your own device. Okay, so maybe you're thinking, okay, these are all things that I can do. What about right now? What could I do right now? Just like that 3 clicks where it takes just a couple seconds and you are done. And I want to introduce you to the Educate and Elevate America Pledge, because this is a powerful way to show unified support for adult education. By signing the pledge, you join thousands of others in demonstrating to policymakers that adult education is a priority. So Julie just put the link into the chat. I encourage you to take a moment and sign the pledge now. If you're unsure if you've done it before, it'll remind you. If you click on that page, it'll say you already did this. The link is in the chat. And I just want to preface it by saying that while we do disaggregate the data based on geographic area, to be able to tell legislators X number of people, X number of your constituents have signed this pledge, we do not share signee personal information. So That is essentially how we are going to use that data, is to be able to share with advocates and state associations. This is the number of individuals within your state who have signed the pledge, and that can help as a talking point or to open a door with a legislator who may have otherwise not been that interested until they saw the sheer commitment of their constituents to what we do. We have a variety of resources that are available. And you've seen a whole bunch of them coming through in the chat, but I also want to show you how to locate this information on your own. So if you go to coabe.org and you hover over the legislative tab, it'll take you to Advocacy April. If you hover, you'll also see links to just about everything that we've shared thus far, in case you're looking for the pledge, Victories, the Public Policy Pulse, the State Association or State Advocate for Adult Education Fellowship. It's all under there. But here are some of the resources that are available. I do want to highlight that we have a sample event calendar. Because maybe you're somebody who you need a little bit of accountability. You need to have something where you can just check off. It always feels good to be able to say, I did it, and check it off. And that is something you can use this calendar for. It'll guide you through, okay, use the 3-click software, invite a VIP to your school, create a 30-second ad about adult education, whatever it might be. Some of these things might not be applicable to you. And of course, you can move things around on your calendar to work for your particular schedule. But it does provide for you a significant number of ideas of things that you can use. We mentioned the ease of the 3-click software. You can also use that 3-click software to set up a meeting with your legislator about Advocacy April. And just by inputting your information and your home address, it will connect you to your specific legislators. Now, if you're speaking on behalf of your program, maybe you want to put your program's address in there. That way it will search for and connect you to the legislators for that particular geographic area. When you have those meetings, let us know how they go. This feedback form provides not only us, but our public policy firm really great information, right? If you had either a really awesome or a really awful conversation with somebody, then you're able to kind of make us aware of that, and we can connect with you and do that as well. So we can help guide you through things, and we can also, connect with you to see if there are resources that you might need. You can do the 3 clicks to send that email to your legislator. Honestly, they're very forgiving if you realize that you can't remember if you've done it yet. I think I've sent this email to my legislators a couple times. Now they just know that I really care. I do get a different response back each time. So again, I consider that data. We also have our 2025 Advocacy Padlet. You might actually find yourself on here because as we are on LinkedIn, if we see something advocacy related from one of our members, we're like, get it on the Padlet. But if there is something that you would like to add, please, please, please make sure that you tag COABE in it on social media, or you can send an email to padlet@coabe.org and we'll do all the work of getting it up there as well. And then lastly, I do want to share that we do have an Advocacy April Master Guide where it lays out information about policies that we are asking legislators to support. We have a connection to or links to a lot of our resources. It walks you through a sample meeting template, legislative talking points, and even, this is my favorite part, the anticipated questions. So you can plan out, well, if somebody asks this, what would my response be? And there's some really great material there. I'll let you know my sneaky way of having this in with me in a meeting is I either pull it up on my tablet, or I print out this particular page and I slip it into my Padfolio so that they can't tell that I have those anticipated questions there, just in case I get something that I wasn't expecting. All right. So again, if you're gonna look for anything there, please make sure you keep your eye out for that Advocacy April calendar. And by the end of the month, you'll have built stronger advocacy habits. You'll have engaged with key stakeholders and helped raise awareness about the power of adult education. All right. We covered a lot of content today. And as we draw to a close, I want to thank you for spending this hour with us today. We appreciate your commitment to advocacy, and we know that it's easier to follow through on a commitment with accountability. So we won't be able to personally follow up with everyone on this webinar, but writing down your goal is just as good. I shared this last year and I'm going to share it again. I share it with my students every year too. So Dr. Gail Matthews, who's a psychology professor at Dominican University in California, did a study on goal setting and found that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals just by writing them down. So with that in mind, before you leave today, I ask you to share 1 or 2 commitments in the chat. I know I put 2 up there, but if there's one you're really excited, all right, I'm not grading you, but what are 1 or 2 different ways that you commit to advocating this month? And if you prefer even more accountability, I encourage you to go ahead and post it on social media and tag COABE. Because as you saw in the chat, Julie and Christine are on it, and they'll help be your accountability partners, and we can all be accountability partners. So we hope that today's session has shown you that advocacy can be simple and impactful, and that even small actions, when multiplied across our field, can create real change. Before we wrap up, I encourage you to subscribe to COABE's Public Policy Pulse for updates. Do at least one of those steps that we covered. Stay engaged throughout Advocacy April and beyond. And then, of course, ending it by saying thank you for being a champion for adult education. Your voice matters, and together we can drive meaningful change. Have a great day and keep advocating. Thank you. And I think we can just exit the Zoom, and that will close out the webinar. I know we still have some people in the room, but if they're like me, might be joining from the car. Or juggling a bunch of other things. Thank you everyone who attended, and we'll be sure to get this recording out to everybody. Thanks so much, Jenny and Joel.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me. See y'all in Dallas.
Yes.